Welcome to the GoPROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to go pro with Jeremy Torisk. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. I have got a really special guest on today because our businesses just seem to be going kind of the same way. So help me welcome somebody who, after realizing that selling homes wasn't more important than what he wanted to do, it wasn't wanted to be what he remembered. Oh, I'll stop, cut, rewind. Okay. You know what? I also was showing you this crap and I took your picture off. So let me put this back on. 1 second. This is a good thing. This is why I record it. There we go. Bam. Put that on there. Okay, let's get back. I won't even have to start again. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. After realizing that selling more homes isn't what he wanted to be remembered for, Brandon turned to learning skills that would transcend the world of real estate. That's what prompted him to publish his story and help build others through his book called The Semi-Retired Real Estate Agent, and through his podcast and trainings. Please give me a warm GoPro welcome to Brandon DeVere. Hey, buddy, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. This is live radio recording. Everybody gets to stumble over a few words, and being the host, I give myself double.
Totally get it. It's all good.
So as a homage to one of my favorite people in the world, Steve Nudelberg, I always start the show the same way. Tell me something good, man. What's going on in your world today?
Oh, well, we got a week left for school for the kids, and we're getting ready to head out to go visit some friends in Salt Lake City at the end of the week. So we're all good, excited to go see some friends and family.
Go spend some quality time now. The kids, you're in Vegas, right? In that area?
Yep.
And how are the schools doing out there with the kids, and how are your kids adjusting to all the new norm with all the COVID
it's interesting.
protocol?
It's my daughter will wear a mask everywhere. It's like she doesn't care. My son is, they have to wear masks at school. We've had people out protesting and things like that, saying, yelling at the parents for making their kids wear masks, stuff like that. It had been tough a little bit, the remote learning. But if we may get into it a little bit later, but my son went through a pretty big battle with, anticipatory anxiety a couple years ago. And the remote learning for him actually, for whatever reason, got him, he was setting his timer, his alarm for when he needed to be back on the computer, all that stuff on his own. He was 7 at the time. And now it's for some reason, it just set a reset button for him, and we were able to get him back into school. And it was, in a weird way, it was like a blessing in disguise for us on one front.
Yeah. And whenever there's bad stuff going on, you always have to get that positive silver lining, even in the worst of times. And some people are offended when you say, the good thing that came of it, because there was a lot of bad stuff, but really, some of the best times in my life have come over the last 18 or 24 months. Some of the changes that happened because directly related to it. So listen, it's all about mindset. I mean, if you can't see the positive in every little thing, even the worst of things, you got some work to do on yourself, because that's what we need to do to be happy. So what's your story? What's the backstory for Brandon? And I know you like to be callalled Devo, right? That's that.
That was my nickname growing up in high school, right? So most of I got some other nicknames that probably aren't airworthy, but
couple of good
Devo
80s and 90s songs too.
Right? yeah. Last name DeVere, so Devo came naturally. So that's what I'm known to. Most of my high school friends and things like that. And being as which, I grew up in a school of, I think we had about 315 students, a couple thousand people. We have a resort here called Aria that has 4,004 rooms. And I always joke with people that, hey, if you gave everybody in my hometown 2 rooms, you'd still have a couple left over to sell. Yeah. So I kind of joke around with that. But I was born in a small town called Cle Elum, Washington. It's about 85 miles east of Seattle. And I grew up in a teacher's household, and always, saw my dad. I thought I would be a teacher for a long time. I was like, oh, great. You get weekends off, holidays, all this stuff. Always had you never have to ask for time off to be with your family. Yeah. But then I kind of started getting older, and I was like, man, I don't know like even like today, I wouldn't want to be a teacher in the normal sense. But anyway, so I ended up kind of bouncing around a little bit. I did a little bit of construction, things like that. And then I ended up moving from Seattle to Las Vegas when my friend's grandmother fell ill. And I was like, hey, we got nothing going on up here in Washington. Let's just go down there. Came down here, met my wife, and then we ended up moving back to Washington for a few years. And then her father had a liver transplant. So we moved back down here to help take care of him.
Yeah.
And we've been back ever since. And, I was in real estate a little bit for a while. And then back in 2013, I was like, all right, I got to go all in if I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And as I got into it, I started learning a lot. And about 6 years ago, I was like, man, you know what? I heard somebody say, I've been to more funerals for real estate agents than I have been to retirement parties for them. So it told me a couple of different things. Like one, we don't have retirement set up for agents, and it's just kind of like, here, go do your thing. And number two was, you're likely going to do something in addition to or to replace your real estate business in general, or entirely. And so I started thinking, all right, I need to learn other skills that apply elsewhere. I joined this writing group. So we learned how to write. We were doing these daily prompts where I wrote like 170 straight Facebook posts that were long for Facebook. They're short stories, but they're Facebook stories, right?
Yes.
And you get to learn a lot about yourself. And then I created a podcast from that called the Learn for Two podcast. And the reason that I created that was I was going to learn with the intent to teach to others. And I committed to doing 1 year of that for 5 days a week. And it was probably the most eye-opening thing about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't go a day. Like so the first 5 episodes I pre-recorded because that was the core. I wanted people to know this is why I'm doing it. This is me. And then, every day you gotta figure something out. Like you're on all the time. How can I relate this to it? Does it have to be business? No. Does it have to be 5 minutes, 20 minutes? It didn't really matter. It was more of an online journal.
Yeah.
And what I wanted others was to learn from me, but also I wanted, my kids to have something that if they go listen to it, one of the big things, which is strange, in a way, is that I wanted them to know that by episode 17 to episode 185, if I changed my stance on something, that they knew it was okay to do that with more information to change your mind.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's how we live. That's how we grow. Open-mindedness and accepting other perspectives and new information. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess how I got to the journey that I'm at now is that I realized probably just a few years ago that, two things. One, I'm sure you've heard of or read The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell. So I identify as a connector. And I was shocked at first. It's like, oh, you're in real estate, you're sales, right? But then I started realizing that every time somebody asked me a question, I go like in my mental Rolodex, how can I hook this person up with that person?
Right.
So I started doing that and I realized that I was, a connector, and also I could be an educator that wasn't a traditional, like at school, teaching sixth grade or something. Something that I didn't want to do. But and one of the things I really enjoy is when I teach courses that aren't like CE credits, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people show up, that's what gets me fired up, man, because it's like these people want to be here to learn this thing and they aren't really getting any credit for it, right?
Yes.
So anyway, the kind of a long roundabout way that I thought I was going to be a teacher, then was like, no way, I'm not going to do it, and come back around. I love to share my knowledge with people. Like my wife is like, okay, that's awesome. Like, I don't care that you learned that today, but I'm like, it's so cool.
You just got to tell somebody.
I got to tell somebody something, right?
Yeah.
So the podcast made it where I could just tell the microphone, and then if somebody wanted to listen to it, they could.
That's right. That's pretty much what I do. I'm speaking to you. I use the podcast for 2 reasons. Number one, to connect. My podcast is to connect with people who I want in my orbit, in my universe. And you and I have very similar business strategies for the future. And that's teaching people through in-person, online. And at the end of the day, it has to do with real estate. For mine, it has to do with real estate or business or, project management, whatever that last module is. But the other reason to be on other podcasts, because I'm on as many podcasts as pretty much I host, and that's for marketing, for getting my name out there, for getting my message out there, letting people know that I exist and I'm here to help people. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the relationship. Mm-hmm. And again, my coach, I always got got to come up with a code word, like a safe word for Noodleberg, because they taught me so much. But at the end of the day, the difference between contract and contact is the letter R, and that R stands for relationship. So he taught me how to build these relationships, like meeting you through here is not just, hey, you're here, you're on my podcast. It's not a transaction. This is a personal relationship that I'm building, and cultivating, and hopefully will carry on, because there's just so much that we can give each other these days. It doesn't matter where we are, Las Vegas to Miami, we can share and help each other's business thrive, because there's also, even if we were in the same city in the same business, plenty to go around. We can only do so much in 24 hours.
Absolutely.
So how much of your business now is split between regular selling and training and coaching?
I've stepped mostly out of production, mainly because I want to focus on this type of thing. Like I love when people, like, it's awesome when I get people sending me like photos and stuff. Hey, I'm at Hawaii and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But that's awesome. But the stuff that I like even more is like, hey, I was able to pay off my daughter's braces. Like, hold on,
that's a wall melter there. That one deserves it. I love helping people overcome their debt.
Yeah, absolutely. And in doing so, like, selfishly in a way, it has helped me overcome some things as well. And as far as, when we go back to the podcast, back to my son, the reason that I wasn't going to share the story, because my son, October 29th, 2019, my son walks into school just like any other day. He goes past the fence onto the playground. He turns around, he holds his finger up, like, just 1 second. And I'm like, what's up, dude? And he comes back. He's like, I can't do this. I go, you can't do what? Comes back around. He's like, I can't go to school. I'm like, what do you mean you can't go to school? So he ends up not going to school he went 3 full days from that point on until his first full day again. So October 29th, we closed down, I think, March 15th. Is that right? Yeah. March 15th. That Wednesday of that week, he was supposed to go back to his first full day of school. So he went 3 days and 5 months. I was terrified. Like, well, one, I thought I was a terrible father. 2, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I thought like CPS was going to come take him from me. So I went to the school. I took him to the school every single day. I was there for 15 minutes to 5 hours sitting in the office. I got contracts accepted, closed deals from, the office, the receptionists and secretaries in there, like, oh, good job, Dad. I was like, hey, close the deal. Right. They're like, woo, but at that time, I had been telling another friend of mine, I was like, let me share your story. Somebody needs to hear this. And she's like, no, I'm too embarrassed. Well, so I wasn't taking my own advice. And then I finally shared that story. Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. I was taking him to school every single day, and signing him out. He missed today. And I knew that there were cameras there. So it wasn't like, oh, you aren't taking your kids to school. Like I said, I was like paranoid of like CPS going, this guy's not even taking his kid to school. Like, we got to do something about this. I have no idea. Probably like complete like fear, like irrational fear. But that's where I was mentally. But then I shared that story, and that was easily the biggest response that I got from people, was sharing that story. How many people went through the same thing? I had a year later after that episode, I got a message on Instagram from this woman, said, hey, Brandon, just listened to episode 98, the drama of gifted child. Just want to see how your son's doing. Cheers from the Netherlands.
All the way. You never know who's listening. One person in your crowd, the audience, on your social media. And that's why they say it's not the quantity, it's the quality of the people,
100%.
Just putting it out there. So how much did that impact then changing? I know we talked a little bit before we went on air, so I don't remember what we said and what we didn't say, because I don't have a Jamie, like Joe. I got to do everything myself, and so I kind of forget. But I know we talked about one of the drivers for you for switching more towards teaching than operating was how important it was to be in the kids' events, right, at this stage of their lives. And so I bet you that, I guess, did that have a lot to do with that?
Oh, absolutely. And naturally doing that, production is going to go down. I had to be okay with it though, right? So when I say that I'm not going to do an open house, like missing my daughter's soccer game is a non-negotiable for me. And I'm not saying like state tournament level. I'm talking about, it's a soccer game. It's Saturday.
Right.
Like I realized, luckily for me,
time real estate days.
What's that?
Prime real estate time for people who are off work and want to go, excited about seeing the house.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm lucky enough to have some mentors in my life that have really driven home, like, hey, like time's going to fly by and you aren't going to realize it. And knowing that, like, I know there's a finite amount of soccer games to go to. Like she's 15. Yeah. We got a couple years left of soccer games. And if she goes on and plays college, she might, who knows? Or she just decides to hang up the cleats.
Yep.
Like I'm not going to be able to be like, oh, I grounded out. I did an open house. I sold 3 homes this weekend. Yes. While they were, out of town at a tournament. And I got to hear from, the other dads, like this was so funny. You should have seen what she did. Or man, she had a great play.
Videos, right, from other fathers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's where I made the decision where I was like, you know what? It's not as important. That's where like, the semi-retired real estate agent isn't about having buckets of money that you're not Uncle Scrooge, diving through money. It's, what I can go ahead and not have to worry. Like you said, there's so much to go around. I don't have to have that, that, that limited mindset. I can have the abundance mindset of being like, hey, you know what? I will get to it. Right. There's something out there. And if I hold on to that, like, the limited mindset where I'm going, I have to have every little thing. Yeah. I'm going to lose out on what's really important. So that's kind of where that was born. The semi-retired agent is about me. Like we did this. I did a little TikTok video once where I was at the soccer field, just did the shine up and then came back down and it was my feet at the beach. Like that's what it means to me. To be semi-retired, I look at, I built it in a way that, my dad worked for 27 years as a teacher. He gets a little money every month.
Yes.
I put in some time. I get a little money every month. And so that's where I get some confusion sometimes. Be like, oh, well, what's semi-retired? Like, why wouldn't you be fully retired? And the reason being is that I don't think I'll ever be fully retired. There's always going to be something to do.
So I feel the same way.
Yeah. So that's why I did 50,
that. And I feel like I'm 30. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Well, in my head anyway. My body might feel like I'm 60 sometimes.
I know that feeling. We played football yesterday, and I'm like, oh, what is that muscle even?
Yeah. So I have the opposite story in that 12 years ago when my kids are 18 to 28 now, but they were 12 years younger, and I lost a business and had to go bankrupt and had to take a job for $45,000 a year at a call center, just to answer phones, just to get insurance for the kids. But when I got back into telco construction, it was for travel. So for the last 10 years, up until just a few months ago, I traveled 45 weeks a year for 10 years. And the only way I could do that is because my 2 sons had a stepfather that was more of a coach than I was, because I'm a music guy. I was a MMA fighter, competitive fighter. So I didn't really have a sports competitive bone in me. You could throw a ball, father, great. I'll punch you in your neck. So when my kids were not fighters. They were sports kids, and I just didn't get it. And when he came along, my ex-wife's husband came along, and he had that, flea flicker, that the drive for basketball coaching. And he's a big guy, 6'3". And I was like, here's the whistle, coach. I love him. He's like one of my favorite people. So if you're in my life, I love you to death, or I will put you to death. There's no in between. And so I was able then to travel those 10 years and make money back again, because I had put my family in such a hole that I missed out on all those games, like you said. But I had to. I didn't have the choice of sitting here because there just wasn't anything here for me locally. And I regret missing all that. But I'd also feel proud that I went and sacrificed so much and built something that now I can spend the rest of my life. They're adults now, 18 to 28, pretty much. But I can guide them from a place of real experience and example. All right. So you're teaching your kids such a great character block, a value, being there for them. And my kids know I was there for them all the time, but then I couldn't be, but we had a replacement. Right. And I got along with Jody, and that's the beautiful thing about kids. You could teach them all different lessons in different ways, but as long as our hearts are for them, what we have to do is what we have to do. So I'm very proud of what I'm hearing from you, that you're giving up. You're not giving anything up, really. You're just changing your perspective and putting other things first. And luckily, you live in a place you can do that too. Vegas is awesome, right? Real estate market booms like here in South Florida. All right.
Yeah. And we're in an industry where it's easy to refer something out and still be compensated for it. and not have to do everything instead of, hey, I want all of everything. Like, hey, you know what? And when you go that way, that like the mindset, I love that you start with mindset, because I think that that's overlooked so much in the beginning of a lot of these things that we try to do, that we put all the like technical stuff into it. And then you get mindset. And, you know, I on these Facebook groups, I always see like, why do you think, you know, so many realtors fail? And one of my biggest things is false promises and mismanaged expectations. You know, people get their license and they're told that they're going to get all this stuff, and then they get it, and then people disappear, and then they're like, oh, well, you can make money. You know, the way I was recruited, I talk about it in the book. I was recruited by I was a hookah boy. I was loading bowls for a living, and this guy came in, and he would come in every Friday and ask me like, hey, you know, do you think you think you can pass a real estate exam? I was like, well, yeah, if I study for it. And he's like, well, come with me and I'll take you under my wing. You make 6 figures effortlessly. And I was like, it turned me off so quickly, because he just said you'll make 6 figures effortlessly.
Nothing is effortless. Nothing is worth it.
Yeah. And so it took me a long time to actually go take my test and even take the class, because I was attracted the same way, is basically what I'm saying, is that, you know, we get a lot of that. And if you don't have that mindset up front, you're already, as soon as you hear that, you're like, boom, I'm going to go sell. You know, somebody joined our team 6 months ago, and he's like, yeah, I'm getting married in 6 months. I want to sell 60 homes by then. So, okay. So what's your plan? Well, what do you mean? You know, like, you don't just show up backwards. Yeah. And that's another thing that I've recently, I had an epiphany recently, and why I'm so much into content creation, and like you're doing podcasts and building relationships, because you get it. You're gonna have people listen to your show, and they're gonna hear you at 3 a.m, and they're gonna listen to 4 or 5 episodes and feel like they know you already. Yes. And so I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, man, you know, agents, all of them, they want leads. But by definition, a lead will need a follower. So you're telling me you want to be a follower of a bunch of people. What if you were the leader and had a bunch of followers that were coming to you based on your content and what you're giving people? You know, I talk about even, you know, testimonials are great, but like reviews sites like that. And I tell people often, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome that you can get a review, but they can be bought and sold. Yes. Like, hey, free $5 gift card for, or $5 Starbucks card for a 5-star review. Yeah. But you get somebody on a podcast like this, like when we're done here, people are going to know at least a little bit about me that they wouldn't get from a review. Right. And a little bit about you as well. Like some stories that maybe you haven't shared yet. And so that's why I think this type of platform is so powerful, is because you really get a chance to know someone rather than just, oh, 5-star, Brandon was great. He walked us through the transaction from start to finish, and now we're in a new home.
Yeah, it's like, that's like Chris Rock says, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Right.
You're supposed to help them through transactions. Yeah, it's the other stuff that don't show up. You know, it's answering the phones and answering the question and putting their whys first. You know, putting them in the right place. I know that my wife, she's a broker, and she's going on to her own early next year. I know that she belongs to a great real estate, you know, brokerage now, but the help that we want to help people with is so different than the help that most brokerages help their real estate agent. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's about the business first. So I'm not a realtor. I own a real estate company. You know, if I don't understand how money works, if I don't understand how business element works, if I don't understand marketing, you know, and recruiting, you're never going to grow. You're never going to replace yourself in the future. And so the other thing too is how you look at, like you said, with finding leads or being the leader. For us, we'd like to think that just by documenting what we do every day, which is what Gary Vee says, if you're afraid of content, don't worry about content, just document what you do, put it out there. Then you become a thought leader, right? Here's how I help someone today. Here's how I help someone today. Here's how I help someone today. Every day you do that, and all throughout the social media post, when someone thinks they need a house, or someone thinks they have a question about buying or selling, or somebody knows somebody, they're going to think of you because they see you every day helping people, serving people, not patting yourself on the back, but how you're helping and serving. And so that's where your leads come from, by being the leader and a server in a community. And that's really, I wholeheartedly believe that.
Told my daughter I was going to get into it, and she's like, no, and you're too old for TikTok, all this stuff. You know, so I stayed away from it for a while, but then I saw how some people were using it, and I was like, well, I can use it that same way. And I'm not sure if one way that I started using it a little bit was my original podcast was called Summerlin Advice Givers. And I interviewed local business owners in a neighborhood here called Summerlin. And that's what it was. Well, I'm sure you've dealt with this as a podcast host yourself, of people maybe not showing up for the interview or canceling last minute. I had that, and I was actually going like to the spot. It wasn't Zoom like this, so it was local. I was showing up with two of these mics, right here, and this HD recorder, and we were doing it live on site. And I had like 4 or 5 of them cancel, like right in a row. So all of a sudden, I had no show. And so that's how I kind of got into doing doing the Learn for Two podcast. I was like, hey, it's just me. I was just me for the first 99 episodes. And then I brought a guest on for episode 100. Jeez. So
how often were you dropping them for 99? Every other day or 3 times a week?
Day.
Nice.
Every day.
That's awesome.
5 days a week. And that was that, like I was saying, I was like, how do I relate this? Like one story. And there were stories here 5 to 20 minutes. But I would get one where, ironically, I tell you this after I tell you that my son wasn't going to school. But one of the episodes early on was, hey, took my son to school last year at kindergarten. The playground was right on the other side of the fence. Well, now he's in 1st grade, and now the playground he's got to run like 100 yards to get to class, get to his dot, right? Put his backpack on his dot and go play. Yeah. And so, but the day 1, he took a couple steps and looked back. Day 2, a couple more steps and looked back. Day 3, few more. And by day 5, bye dad, and he was gone. And so I just related that to being, hey, if you're going to be a leader for your team, you have to let them know that you'll be there. Yeah. Until they don't have to look back anymore, because they know that you'll be there. Yes. And so I just relate, like, stories like that is what I would end up doing with that. But yeah, so I ended up doing myself for the first 99, and for the majority it is just me. But then so I switched from the pod from doing the interviews because it was too shaky. When COVID hit, I started doing more interviews for local businesses because, one, I realized they didn't either have the bandwidth, the skill or knowledge, or the funds to go put out something, piece of content like that. So that was my way to kind of give back. So then I started doing like TikTok, where I was like, okay, because a lot of people are like, hey, I don't know what to say for this long. I can't talk. If you can't tell, I talk all the time. Like, again, I'm high-fiving people at the bar. And my wife is like, hey, I'm right here. Like, are we here to hang out together or what? Are we on a date, or you high-fiving that guy for the Knights game? But I realized, okay, so if I go to TikTok, I can basically do the same thing and go do a 15-second quick little video of a business and give to them, as well as still get content for myself. And one of the ones that I use always when I'm teaching podcast courses and things like that for agents, as I said, this video right here, I went to a local business. It was a pet store. I walked in. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. Can I do this? I just want to do a couple videos, or a video, a couple shots, just promoting you. She's like, well, why do you want to do that? And I was like, well, again, I was like, hey, it's COVID time. I thought that it would be a good way to promote local businesses. And she goes, yeah, but why are you really doing it? And I was like, well, I guess I'm a real estate agent. She goes, what do you get out of it? And I said, well, I'm a real estate agent. Maybe somebody sees it and they like what they've seen, and they find out that I'm an agent. They watch my other stuff and they want to use me, or want to work with me. Mm-hmm. And she's like, can you bring me a stack of business cards? Because I know when my clients are moving, they're in here. We know them all. And so it wasn't like, I didn't go in, Gary V, jab, 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 right hook. I didn't ask for anything. It was straight here, part of the community. And it's super powerful when you do that, because I don't know. It's just funny that I went in there, did a 15-second video, and that was it. So that's where TikTok kind of got my mindset going, hey, well, why don't we do this? The podcast classes I've done, I've had, and I do it very simple. Like, what I wanted to do was take out the tech. 2 biggest complaints I got: I'm not tech and I don't have the funds. And the number one question that I get from people all the time was, I'm not tech savvy, or what mic do I need before I start? And I just say, what mic do you need? Will not having that mic stop you from getting your content out?
Right.
Yes. Then no, you don't need a mic.
Exactly.
I don't care what it is. But like so my goal with the podcast courses I was doing was just get your content out. Anchor, you can have it up in an hour.
That's right.
You can have your content ready to go in an hour. It doesn't have to be like you mentioned Joe Rogan earlier. I joke, I've written stories about, hey, I'm only 51,978,000 downloads behind Joe Rogan, right? About comparing yourself.
Yes.
But the podcast that I wanted to do and I tried to do with TikTok was called The Minute of Mentorship. And basically it was an intro of me saying, hey, you got 1 minute to share your just like one nugget. Tell me what it is. And the thought process was I would want to get, I don't care if it's a guy that is worth $10 billion or if it's the mailman.
Yeah.
Like what nugget can you give in 60 seconds? Because everyone has something 60 seconds worth to sell or to say, right?
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I wanted to get going on that. And the other thing is they can do it on their terms, right? So it's not, hey, are you available this day? Oh, sorry, I can't. Oh, something came up. It's, hey, here's a link. Especially on TikTok, you can do what's called stitching. And so you can take the first 7 seconds of my video or whatever it is. I think there's a limit on it. But the first few seconds of that video where that's my intro, and then you put your minute, your minute of mentorship with it. And then you get to share like your nugget. So it has some context.
Bam. I love that. I'm going to look into that. I haven't even started to do that, but in January, I'm going to have some bandwidth to start doing some other little things. It's like you can never do so much. There's so many things out there. I got this. Oh man, I forget the name of it. The little board with all the buttons on it. The stream caster or something. You just push it and it does all the stuff that I want to do here without me looking everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I've had it, for 3 months and I haven't had time to really sit there and sink my teeth into it because there's just so many things on my priority list that are high value, creation. That create actually money or connections or, something forward my business, whether sitting there and programming a button to push to make this fire thing happen without me looking. Yeah, that's way down the list. Right. But there's always something to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably one of my biggest downfalls is that I like learning so much and I find so many things fascinating. Like the weirdest thing that you'd be like, well, what? You're into that? And I'm like, well, I don't know yet.
Right. Well,
it's kind of interesting. And now I'm down this rabbit hole, finding stuff and TikTok will definitely get you down that rabbit hole too. And one of the things I really liked about TikTok is, the ability to be creative and people like the expectations on there aren't like, I think each social media channel has a different expectation.
Yeah.
And if you bring something to one, it might miss completely. Because like, in TikTok, the thing about TikTok is that your feed that it shows you is not who you're following. It's what the algorithm thinks you're going to want to see.
Yeah.
So it's different than, Facebook. You go on Facebook, you're like, what are my people up to?
Right.
You go to TikTok and it's like random, whatever. I mean, I did a little video for the book and it was an infomercial, so I'm like, my wife and I were coming home from Salt Lake and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And so we were like, masterminding on the way home. And I came home and I shot this stupid little 15-second video infomercial on the book, how it can fix your uneven stool, like how it can chop, chop apples, right? Cook dinner in half the time, like that kind of stuff. Where it was just, it allowed me to be a little bit more creative and not have any like, what, this is fun for me. Throw it out there. I've tried a couple different things too. I had somebody tell me, hey, read portions of your book on there. And and I got roasted on one. The one guy said, what got me into real estate? And this guy pops on and he's like, what got you into real estate, my man? He's like, basically saying that I look like Ben Roethlisberger. And he's saying like, so I was like, this is hilarious. It's funny. Like,
there's no bad press, right? Just spell my name right.
Yeah. Right. And it's, so it's funny, but I guess, sorry, we kind of skipped over. I kind of derailed it for a second. But the TikTok you were talking about was the epic failure night that we did here with some people. And that's going to be a monthly thing. But it is, as agents, we are constantly on the positive train and everything. Like we're talking about Gary Vee documenting. So I had a friend, and this is why I tell people, like, document your journey, share these things.
Yeah.
I had a friend that lost 90 pounds. And I saw him, I was like, dude, start documenting this. He's like, I'm not that person. He's like, I don't want to share it. I go, don't share it with anybody. Document it. Exactly. I go, because in real estate, we love the before and after photo, right? It's like, hey, here's me. I sold 3 homes last year. Now here I am next to a private jet and a Maserati.
Right.
Like they may not be mine, but I was able to, now I can afford to stand in front of and take a picture, right? But we love that A and B. But the problem is the people can't relate to what happened in there, and they don't think that you went through it. Yeah. And so what I would tell my friend, I was like, no one's going to be able to, they're going to look at you and be, you lost 90 pounds. And he was here for an event, and we ate lunch, and went out to lunch, and he ordered the salad, and he ate it like right down the middle. Like you couldn't like portion it any better, like get a ruler out, whatever, right down the middle. And he didn't take it with him. I thought he was gonna save it for later or something, and he gave it back. I'm like, why didn't you just order the lunch portion? And he said, because I was going to eat the whole thing if I ate the lunch portion. So he still ate the same amount, but in his mind, he stopped when he wanted to. Yeah. And so I go, that's awesome. 1, but 2, how is somebody going to relate to that if you want to share your story? But if they saw on day 37 where you had a double animal style fry, I'm not sure if you guys have In-N-Out where you're at. No, or ever had In-N-Out. But I mean, or went to McDonald's or something, supersize on day 37 when they did it, and they go, oh, I'm not cut out for this. I suck.
Yes.
But they saw this and this, not all the in between, and don't feel that sense of, I guess, motivation, or, you know what, if he can do it, because I'm super about like, I don't have like a massive team. I don't have like podcasting. This is why I want people to look at me and go, if he can do it, I can do it. Like, that's right. I want to motivate people that way. And that's why when I do these podcast courses and things like that, is that what it is?
If I could do it, anyone could do it.
Perfect.
Because that's how important it is. Whatever it is. Yeah. If somebody else did it, you can do it.
Yes. Yeah. And when you let people see what you have done in the meantime to get to that point, then people can relate and have more. I feel like they feel more empowered when they go, you know what, I screwed up yesterday. I read this book called Body for Life years ago. Bill Phillips. You ever heard of this book?
No.
But he was talking about, it was a 90-day program where you did, 3 workouts a week, I think, eating plan and stuff. And I went through and I did really well, but I had this the check mark, like a calendar, like mark it off each day. And for whatever reason, that like red extra at the day, I couldn't not have it. So I was making excuses to work out, right? To make sure I got the day in. But one of the things that he said was, if you miss a day, don't restart. Or if you make a bad decision on a meal, start on the next one. And I think so many people they miss on the one, and they're like, I'm not cut out for this.
They go off the rails.
Off the rail, yeah.
Yeah, they go to McDonald's and they go Taco Bell, then they eat the ice cream for dinner and then dessert because they already cheated a little bit.
Yep.
Well, let's just go off the rails for the rest of the day, and that sets you back even further.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you can see that somebody like the guy who lost 90 pounds still had a double cheeseburger when he probably wasn't supposed to, but then got back right on it. I think that empowers people to be like, well, I can go back to my next meal not being a cheeseburger.
Right.
Like, it's just that one step, right?
You don't have to have everything, because moderation works both ways. Where if I lost 50 pounds, and that's just from IF. It wasn't even from working out, because I hate lifting weights because they're just too heavy. Right? I did competitive fighting for a long time. I never lifted weights, calisthenics and push-ups and stuff. I hate weights, but when I lost all my weight a couple of years ago, it was just from changing my diet. And I found that as long as I didn't eat for long periods of time, when I did eat, I could eat whatever the hell I wanted to, as long as it was within moderation. So I'm not a salad person. I'm not a fruit or a veggie person. So I would still eat, somewhat bad. I would eat at home, which made it better, but I would still eat white bread and pastas and cakes and cookies, but I would eat a lot less of it. And so that was just the fact that I was intermittent fasting, and I was really disciplined about it. And then when I did eat, I allowed myself to eat sweets and stuff, because that's what I was used to. I still lost all the weight. It was still done healthy, and I still kept it off like 2 years now. But the same way goes in moderation, where you can't go to zero either. You got to allow yourself some fun and some meals to enjoy. And I tell you what, after a while, when you don't do it for a while, you don't even want sugar. Doesn't taste the same. Mountain Dews now for me taste horrible.
You feel like the burn, right? You're like,
Yeah.
Like you can tell that it's not real.
Yeah. Cardboard. Yeah. But you know, it's everybody's the same, really a lot more the same than we think we are. You know,
Yeah.
it's just about the discipline in your head and your mindset. That's why I always start with that with my training: discipline, business elements, financial, and then the specialty.
Mhm.
You know, or in some sort of combination, because without the other three legs, that chair needs all four legs to stand, or the
Yeah.
table, or whatever you want to choose. But the four legs are important. So we always kind of train in tandem with. You need to make sales, but you also need to know how to market. You need to know how to do it your money. You need to know what mindset getting a daily routine is all about. You know,
Yeah.
that's very important for our people. So I think how often do you do that room that you're talking about, where people get together and talk about their life?
It's once a month. So it's funny, like also TikTok and videos and content out there, the things that it, like the opportunities that it presents you that are not just buying and selling homes. Like I tell people a lot, like, hey, in our market, people buy homes every 5 to 7 years. So if you're going to do a podcast, I suggest adding something to it that's not just buying and selling homes. Let people get to know you. Because otherwise you're going to have an audience that goes, oh, you're relevant now. You're not relevant for another 5 years. You're relevant now. And so I started doing videos, and another video that I did for CrossFit Box out here, I met a gentleman who saw me do that. And he's like, hey man, we got to connect. We have to connect. I'm doing this hashtag support local Vegas Facebook page. I want you on there. Like we're doing this thing together. Now that's led into something entirely different outside of the real estate world. But that's how I met this person over at it's kind of it's a co-work space, kind of like WeWork, things like that. And so she kind of runs it there, and she's like, hey, on the East Coast, we got this thing and we want to bring it over here. We want to try it out. Can you help us? So now they're asking us for help to put this event on, just because of what they've seen us do with the local community and things like that. But so she's like, epic failure night. We want to get people up there to kind of share their failures. So we want to do it once a month. We did it in November. We missed this month, but starting next month, we're going to get it back. We may, depending on, we would love to do it twice a month. And get that many people. But it's a great concept, especially when people are willing to go. Like if you go first, other people will start sharing.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is that a virtual deal or is that in person hybrid?
That one was in person. What we may end up doing is like streaming it. Yeah. At some point. But the beginning is to be to create interest in that building over there, because it also has the Small Business Development Center of UNLV there, which is our local college here. So they're doing a lot of like tech forward things there. And it's going to expand, and they're really doing stuff to like pump into startups. Sure. So that's why we kind of want to get people out there to check out the technology that's going on there. I mean, I've been to a couple blockchain events there. I still don't understand blockchain and crypto. But I'm like I'm looking at it going, there's something here.
Yes.
I don't know what it is yet, but there's something here.
Way. Yeah.
And so I started going to events there. So I've been there.
Something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been there, multiple times. But that's the idea, is try to get people over into that area where they're doing meetups and kind of get to know the space a little bit. So for now, it's just on site, and then we'll probably move it to doing some streaming of the live event.
Well, that's great, man. So tell us some other things that we can help support you on. What's coming up next for you? Where can people go besides, the stuff I'll show here with your LinkedIn and your website, and tell us about the book. Where can we find the book? What can we do to help you in your endeavors now?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. The book itself it's free shipping, free, just pay for shipping and we'll get it out to you. It's at the semiretiredagent.com, and there's no hyphen between semi-retired. But you can go get the book there and jump into our community. We have a couple communities within Facebook. If you just look up my name on Facebook or any other social, that's where you'll find me. BrandonDeVere.com is basically a link tree, just kind of sharing the different things that we're working on. Right now we're working on something called Authentic Agent Resource, where we kind of want it to be a spot where agents can learn from agents and consumers can learn from agents in their area. Kind of a, not a global thing at the moment, but a nationwide thing where we can get people connected with the right agent. And also, I'm a big fan of agents learning from people in other markets, just because of the things that, hey, you're doing this, it's not working that well. And I've seen things that work in markets under 100,000 people population.
That's true.
That don't necessarily work in, a couple million population, right? And vice versa, where, you like, and understanding what people are doing, being able to implement those things. And what we're finding is we're getting a lot of people that are finding the right people, right? The people that are willing to share their stuff instead of be like, oh yeah, no, I just do stuff and I do Facebook, and instead of being like, hey, try this, or even the strategy, what's that?
If you don't measure it, you can't improve it, right? You can't. So you got to do this stuff in a tactical, purposeful way. Just kind of throwing stuff against the wall.
And sharing like the things that you're doing. Even like the TikTok strategy of just doing those little small community things like that. Like that's not proprietary to me, but I could definitely hold on to it and not share it with people. But it's a super easy thing to do. That not I've seen other people do it, but not a ton. But those type of things where we want growth out of people, and not just in the real estate world. Like I always go back to stamps, right? Like if you're doing a podcast and if you're the real estate agent that loves stamps, I think that was in one of Gary Vee's book where he talked, I think Crush or Cash, what's it? Cashing on Your Passion. I can't remember that's the subtitle of it. I think it's Crush It or Crush It. Yeah. Crush It, Cashing on Your Passion. But he talks about, there's people that like stamps. There's other people out there that like stamps, you're not the only one. It kind of goes back to one of the quotes that someone had told me, probably the best advice that I've gotten about content creation is always create for those who will, never create for those who won't. Because you spend your time trying to, I got a negative review on my book. I'll be completely transparent. Negative review on my book. The guy was like, this is terrible. I thought I would get a nugget out of it. And in the next day, I got a comment from somebody that said, Brandon, you made my day. And those two things are what I like to repel maximally and attract minimally. So if I can get those people that look at my book and say, this guy's an idiot, there's going to be people on here that might go, this guy's an idiot. That's fine, because this has done all the work. We'll never have to talk.
Yes.
Like that filter is in place now.
Push them right out.
But the people who do want to talk, and those ones that raise their hand, now we've already started somewhere that's not bottom. And I'm not trying to convince you. It's, hey,
that's great.
Our ideas, we align.
I love it. What do you say that would retract maximally and appeal minimally?
Yeah. So it's repel maximally, attract minimally.
Minimally. I love that. I love it. So you, as far as efforts go, bam. The litmus test, right? Just put it out there, be you, and then who's there for you is going to be there for you. I used to say, if you want to lose a friend really good, just lend him $100. Never see him again. I really need this back, so don't screw me on this. I'm gonna give it's my phone bill, man. Okay, bye.
Exactly. But that does the heavy lifting for you. Like this in the same breath when I was talking earlier that somebody's gonna listen to your podcast at 3 a.m. If they listen to 5 of them, they might go, man, Jeremy's awesome. I got to talk to this guy. Or they might go, this guy's an idiot. I would never want to work with him. But the beauty is you never have to hear that. I actually I randomly stumbled upon that review that came up. And I was like, but at first, I'm not going to lie either. At first, you're like, oh man, it's something you created, right? And I didn't create it. Like, I was on, what is it, Clubhouse? Yeah. And Clubhouse for a while. When I was on that, every single profile was like, #1 bestseller. I wrote a book, #1 bestseller. This, that, and the other thing. I know how to make my book a #1 bestseller on Amazon. Yeah. You get 10 of your friends to order it at the same time, and you get that badge, right? Yeah. So I just wrote, hey, I had some thoughts. I wrote a book. It's not a #1 bestseller. It's just a seller. Yeah. It's for some people, and it's not for probably more people.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I love what you said about the coffee table. So I said, get my book. It's 144 pages. If you can't read it in one night, you could use it to stabilize your dining room table there. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons way you could use it. If it gets cold, start a fire with it. I don't care. I didn't write it for you. I wrote it so I wouldn't get divorced during COVID, during the shutdown. Man, I appreciate you, Brendan, and I'm going to look forward to doing a lot more things with you. I want in on your orbit, and because I think we're doing a lot of things that are very much in the same direction of helping as many people as we can while we're still here on this side of the grass, man.
Well, I'm looking forward to it as well.
All right. Well, we're going to get back with Devo back on the show very soon, I'm sure, because of all the stuff that he's got going on. And I'm going to be using him. And watch out for my new TikToks coming out in the next couple of months, because I am going to R&D the hell out of his TikToks. And you're going to see Jeremy doing a lot of Devo material soon, because I think it's going to rock, man. I love that channel. Check it out. Thanks for joining us here today on the GoPROcast, where changing your mindset and really tackling your failures and using them as fuel to get you where you want to go is what we're all about. Thanks, and see you next time.